Have a quorum and I'll call the meeting to order. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Loveman,
Here.
Mr. Brookins,
Here.
Mr. Haywood,
Here.
Mr. Hallowell,
Here.
Mr. Hancock,
Here.
Ms. Holland, here, Ms. Turner, Mr. Young,
Here. Thank you. We have two sets of minutes. Thank you. Two sets of minutes, one from committee and one from regular board meeting last month. Need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? And there are none, let's voice vote to approve them. All those in favor of approving them as written, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by same sign. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we have three citizens that have asked to speak for us. And let's start with Ben Vershorp. Ben?
I go with
I
the,
think photo would be great, yes, sir.
hi there, folks. I just, not gonna be long. I just wanted to say that I'm here in regards to the proposed Google data center in Botetourt County. I've been against it and remain against it. I think that the issues that are raised is in terms of our water supply are even more germane today, since Roanoke just yesterday entered a severe drought status, and I believe today Franklin County did as well. I think regardless of the planning that has gone into this, that it is short-sighted, that this data center will have costs larger than are being predicted, especially when it comes to unpredictable weather patterns like the drought that we're in. And the data center is just going to exacerbate them. I know that the reason, at least the stated reason for agreeing to it is that Google is going to pay for the study for a new water source. But given that their data center is going to be accelerating the rate at which we need to find that new water source and be able to supply them 8 million gallons of water a day, I think that it is a terrible trade-off that despite the folks of Google and or Botetourt County paying for it instead of the rest of the ratepayers, I think that you are going to find ratepayers much more angry when they're being asked to ration their water usage, and a gigantic warehouse full of circuitry that contributes nothing to the community is sucking up 2 million gallons per day and gives excuses for why they can't turn their water off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Scott Yates? Huh?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Scott Yates. I live at 403 Salem Avenue right here in Roanoke. Just a two-part question about water rate. I was reviewing our packet today. Perhaps I'm not reading between the lines correctly, but here we go. So during this year's budget process for FY27, the literature today mentions a proposal for increasing residential water rates by about 3%. Can you clarify how those rate increases are or are not related to permit capacity augmentation projects that are going into areas of need like the new technology park in Roanoke County and the Botetourt area? As we know, there's a giant there's a proposal for a large water user in the Botetourt area. Related, can you summarize or clarify your discussions on create a tier 4 rate for high volume customers? And are you considering any other policies that might apply to those high volume customers? Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Chloe?
This will be pretty quick.
911 system for locating utilities. Are going to you call 811. They'll send out a notification to all the utilities in the area that you're digging. We're a subscriber to that, so we'll get those notifications. A crew that works for Trent for a location utility. It's every month, and we do quite a lot of line location work. We also contract with the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority to locate their fiber for them as well. It's just a way to help them out. But one thing I wanted to point out here was we saw a pretty good jump in tickets in March, and this is similar to what we saw in March of 2023. Line location tickets are a good leading indicator for future development. When engineers and contractors are calling in for tickets, that means construction's about to happen. And so you can see kind of a trend here where we kind of had a dip, and then construction tickets for March, and again, March being the traditional time you start seeing people calling in because they're planning to do construction in the summer. So we think this is an indication that we might see a fairly heavy development activity this summer. So a lot of there to get to that point that we think construction activity is going to be heavy this summer. Liana's team, this is kind of into page 3 and page 4. In addition to all the other things they do in the customer service area, one thing they do is track the types of calls we get. And at the top of page 4, there's a graphic with those kind of things, how we categorize those. And we also categorize those by locality as well. So we're keeping track of the types of calls we're getting and the locations are coming in. And she's got a list here of the top 15 that we saw through March. I think this is pretty typical most of the time. And you can kind of see most people are calling in with an inquiry about the bill, transfer, or how to restore a service. Possibly they've been disconnected for non-payment. So, but you can kind of see some of the other types of calls that customer service gets in a regular month. Liana, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, as we get into the summer months, the 3 months, you will see how the transfer service notes increase. That number on the
On the next couple of pages, you can kind of see some information about, again, our Authority Cares program and the number of the disconnects for non-payment. We did have a jump in March due to the fact that we weren't really doing a lot of that during the winter. So some customers were able to ride a little bit there, but we did see a little bit of a jump there. And again, it's also broken out by zip code. So. Page 6, it was mentioned one of our comments that it is dry out there. We're good part of the area we're in, and a good part of Virginia is in stage 2 drought. Fortunately, none of the Commonwealth. I think the graphic that came out today actually has all those yellow areas, the kind of light tan, moderate drought. But there's a pretty good sized drought going on throughout the southeast part of the country. Go to the lower part of Georgia, northern Florida. They're in an exceptional drought, that D4 range. The good news is we talked about this a little last month, is the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center, which is actually based out of Asheville, North Carolina, is predicting again a weather flip. Pattern flip, where we're going from a La Nina year to an El Nino year. What that means for the Mid-Atlantic, and when you look at their climate charts, significantly above average chances for rain in May, and they actually have extended that through October for us. So we're expecting wet summer and early fall with that flip in between the La Nina. So likely we'll see some relief on the drought.
Mike,
Yes. Yeah.
before you move on, can we go back to
Mhm.
the highway monitor and see? My question is, I know we have our own programs, but do we have a list of other programs that we refer them to as well? We have a long list, I think, that we say do not qualify for, you can't apply here.
Typically, we're not, we don't have a lot of criteria to qualify for us. It's usually they've already.
Basic.
Do want to point out though that the reservoirs are still looking pretty good. Carbon's Cove is at 78% capacity, 78% full. We've really added a lot of water at Spring Hollow. We're at 90. The report says 94 there. I think it's dropped a little bit to 90, a little less than 94. It's 93 there. So looking good again as far as storage goes. Scott Shirley let us know that he had gotten some notification from the national PFAS settlement. Eight kind of group, I guess, is put together to handle this class action National Settlement Center. Two of the other participants in that suit, Tyco and BASF, they were smaller organizations compared to DuPont and DuPont Chemours and 3M, but they have a share in the cost there. We're going to be receiving a payment from them soon in the amount of $602,000 for the settlement there. So actually, one of those, we got notification the check's actually been issued, 400 and something thousand there of the six. So again, money continues to come in associated with that class action law. We are working quite a bit with both the health department and a number of water systems in Franklin County to transfer those over to the authority. And I just got contacted by another one that would like to turn over their operations to us as well. So, don't know if it's just the cost of operations. The one that had recently reached out to us is actually having a little bit of a problem with their well. So like to start buying water from us. So again, I think we have maybe at least 4 of these in Franklin County at this point. They're all pending. Very excited about the fact you can kind of see at the bottom of page 7, we had a number of employees pass either their water or wastewater operating. You know, them all listed there. So obviously getting our folks licensed and higher licenses. The licenses, 1 is the best. It's like it goes 1 down to 4. You can see we have some new employees that just got their 4s, and we have some employees that have been with us a few years that are just getting their 1s. So very, very excited about that. And there's a promotion that goes with that licensure. Yeah.
Before that,
And actually, they're trying to get us by August 30th.
oh, I know why.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tight. But we're trying.
Oh, but they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, they have essentially it's leftover money from other projects that they said. You know. Top of page 8, I think we've mentioned that we had some screen failures up at Spring Hollow for the filter units up there. Those screens have come in, so we're starting to replace those. And folks, pictures of our team going up there doing that work. Page 9, I just want to point out really, it's a small item, but I think we're pretty proud of it, is that picture there with the Fairham water plant. That's the 2 white tanks there. You know, we took that facility over a few years ago, and it operated well, but maybe I'll just say maybe wasn't, I will use the term Gary liked to use, it wasn't as spiffy as we like to see it. So we had a little project there to do some repairs on a few things, do some painting, refinish the floor and everything like that. And it really has turned out nice. The facility looks really good. And then let's see, at page 13 under administration and engineering, I mentioned this to the IDEA team last week, but we had a really successful high school apprenticeship recruitment season. And a lot of that really goes to both HR, Neil and his team, especially Mackenzie Wilcox, and Sarah and her team. We were able to sign 5 new apprentices. We had 9 or 10 apply, 9, we interviewed 9. You had to come on the tour and along with your parents that we did in February, and that was that February day where it was like bitterly cold. So if you showed up for that tour and went around at all our facilities, you know, you definitely were interested in the job. So, but it had a really good turnout. We have a long history with the school systems on these apprenticeship programs, and there are so many other groups now doing them that it's actually become a bit of competition to find apprentices. It's a little bit of a challenge for us. So we really have to kind of be a little creative and show them what we do and get them interested in it. So we had a good turnout this year. This is something I'm excited about. Kind of the top of page 11. We are about 400 feet away from finishing the Melrose Avenue Waterline Improvements Project 1B. If you kind of remember back, we got a bunch of financing funds from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and we kind of divided those up into project 1A, which we've already completed, 1B, which we're about to complete, and then we have a phase 2 project that we're working on as well. So this has done we've replaced, you can see 16,000 linear feet of pipe in the Melrose neighborhood. So excited about that. Congratulations to Kesha and her team. I think she's going to talk about that a little bit more maybe during the presentation later today on the capital program. You can see some of the other projects we got going on there. And then on page 12 under regional efforts, our staff have been participating both at conferences and also doing presentations. We've had staff at a couple of different events. A great picture of Erica heads up our GIS programs there at the Central Square Users Conference. That's the software that we use for our work order management systems. Erica manages our GIS, and she's working on integrating the work order systems with our GIS more seamlessly. So, and then Sarah and her team have submitted some abstracts. This is the last page of the report to the NACWA Strategic Communications Conference, and all 3 were accepted. So they submitted 3 abstract ideas, and all 3 got accepted. So, so we'll have a little bit of a presence at that conference coming up in June. So, and with that, Mr. Chairman, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Apologize for trying to shortchange you there.
That's all right.
Just for Mike.
Going back to the issue with the wells, at Bed Mountain, does it make sense, or is it possible even to those projects to get deadline?
We're going to actually talk about that, but we actually are. We've and I want to thank Tesha and her team because they actually had kind of the capital plan figured out, and then we kind of jumped in and said we need to move these around. So they were already under design, but like the pump station probably wouldn't have been funded till next fiscal year, or fiscal 28, I guess it would have been. So we moved a project around into our debt issuance that we want to talk to you all about. We're going to cash fund the pump station in the current year, and then also issue debt for the pipe project. So we have accelerated the financing for those projects.
Makes sense.
Maybe I have one question about that. So the existing wells are getting water up to the tanks today. How are they? What's pumping system is used to move the water?
It's just the pumps in the wells, and then there is a David. I think there is one booster pump station, a little booster pump in.
There's no way to get it up the hill until we do. Or-
We might be able to do something interim, but we got, until we get the pipe out there.
Yeah.
And again, the pump station, ideally, what we'd like to do is that pump station will be way bigger than we'll need for the elevations at the higher point here. We really like to maybe find a location for a new tank, a future project, even higher elevation, and get rid of 2 existing tanks, and then you could be able to serve a larger area with them.
Maybe some development opportunity. out there.
Exactly. Something might happen. Yeah. We're preparing for that. I think I'm also just curious to figure out again why wells 3 and 4 there at the bottom are not impacted. Again, we think it's the creek, but to Randall's point, that's a shallow. I mean, these are deep wells, and so you kind of wonder what's going on there with the geology protecting those compared to the other. So we have a little bit of work to do to figure that out. Any other questions? Okay.
There are no other questions? Now time for financial report, Tammy.
I have, financial for the month of March. Here, water bill. And budgets are at 70%, other operating revenue 5%, operation and maintenance expenses are at 70%, even net income from operating is at 86%. Economic development statement, total operating revenues are at 77%, total operating expenses are at 69%, net income is at 101%. Down below, we see our cash and balances at the end of March. For both funds, we have approximately 76. That's the financials for the month of March, so we have any questions.
Questions for, Tammy, if you back out the contributed capital of both the water and the sewage, when that's way over the budgeted, if you took that out, would we still be at goal? Thank you. I couldn't do the math in my.
No, we're having a strong year for this. Yes, thank you. For March, all the major categories, residential, industrial, and commercial, were all up year over year, anywhere from 1% to 4%. So, and I think we were about 10 million gallons for the month higher for March of this year compared to March of last year. So we had a strong month.
Thank you.
Any other questions on financial report? Okay, being that there are none, report from our council. Jeremy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the Ferrum Water and Sewage Authority, no contacts, frankly, of late from the primary person with whom Tammy's been dealing with there. Tammy is, of course, diligently reaching out, but our contact is not really responding of late. I think Mike is probably interested in exploring what our options are as this intransigence continues, but we'll look into that certainly and see if there's any options we can pursue there. Mike mentioned 4 systems, I guess, in Franklin County, and that's not including Ferrum, probably.
Or the Bridgewater.
Oh, it's not including Bridgewater either. Okay. Well, Bridgewater is again, it's been here forever, and we have over the last several weeks responded to some inquiries from the SEC as we go through that process. The SEC staff report is due tomorrow. I think that will finally shed some light on where we are and how we're going to get across the finish line. We have 10 days to respond to any information requests. I'm sure we can get an extension if they have a lot, but they've already asked enough questions where I'm hopeful that there won't be a substantial number of requests coming in tomorrow. And then at that point, we had to publish notice both in the Roanoke Times and deliver notice to the Franklin County Board of Supervisors about the possibility of citizens to request a public hearing on this or to intervene in this process, and no one had elected to do so, which frankly is not very surprising. So hopefully we'll be able to, once we get the staff report tomorrow, be able to progress swiftly to get this thing across the finish line. I'm going to jump down to number 4 real quick. Idlewood Shores is one of the ones that Mike was talking about. I have been in contact with the homeowners association's attorney, and he and I are working through some agreements to get the process rolling. He is in contact with the system's owner. It'll be a multi-step process. The system has to go from the owner to the homeowners association and then to us. I think that's still your plan, right, Mike? So that the improvements to the system can occur before we acquire ownership of the system.
And Ms. Turner, this is the one where we got the $400,000.
And part of the process between the homeowners association and the system owner are putting a contract in place which will satisfy the health department for the use of the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, for the OA, where the required to make any contribution at this point, but the ARPA fund cover it.
We're hoping that, so this is the one where initially the health department said they could provide funding, then they couldn't, and then we were going to have the homeowners, we were going to finance it and have the homeowners have an adder onto their bill every month. Now the health department says they have money, so if we can get all done, there won't be any charge to the homeowners. Yeah, exactly. But we have to get it done by August 31st, so we got some work to do. Huh? I'm hoping it's just that's what they're saying now. Exactly.
And this one will have to go through the SEC process the same as Bridgewater. Fortunately, the folks at the Department of Health are not holding up the use of the ARPA funding for that process to be complete, so that we can go through that process after the fact. Because they are two separate organizations and two separate review processes. On the FOIA litigation, which I skipped, that's purely a matter of the Court of Appeals now. We've filed our initial briefing. The respondents will get an opportunity to file their response brief. There may or may not be a hearing before the Court of Appeals. I'll just keep you updated on that case as it goes forward, but I don't anticipate any developments in the near term on that. Just lawyers doing some lawyering the next couple months.
Has it been sold?
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
Yes, it has been sold, and it's interesting. You know, the Virginia Freedom of Information Act applies to citizens of the Commonwealth, and you know, I don't believe Mr. Jandro is a citizen of the Commonwealth anymore. I understand he moved to New York. It doesn't impact the litigation at all. He certainly was at the time he made the request that led into this, but it is an interesting development that paper or the news outlet itself has been conveyed. Other things have been just moving along as a matter of course. New Hope Church has been on here a couple of times. That matter is now resolved. We've executed an agreement. I don't know, the work is not resolved. The claim against the Water Authority has been resolved. Likewise with Wallace Avenue, we've closed on the acquisition of that property, which wrapped up an issue there. And continue to work on a number of things. We've had quite a few Freedom of Information Act requests that Sarah has been handling. I've provided some assistance there as needed and worked on some policy interpretation and drafting. Well, other than that, you know, there's a few things that continue to linger, but we're hopefully get some of these bigger ones to the side. We can move through some of the backlog. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Question for council. If there are none, we move to report committee chairs. Mr. Chairman, the IDEA team did meet last week, and I'll follow this under time flies, but it's the 3-year anniversary since McKinsey Wilcox retired, and the IDEA team is now 4 years old. So it's been an incredible group. We've had some great wins. We are talking about maybe re-looking at the direction and the things that we're going to address. But they're still working on, obviously, the onboarding checklist. I think that went out and piloted successfully. And as well as getting involved and partnering with HR to sort of maybe change up and make the awards banquet a little bit more livelier and encourage additional participation. I think the people getting an award, they were disappointed that there weren't as many people that showed up. but it was interesting, everybody doesn't like to go and get in front of the crowd and shake hands. And so they're just looking to maybe change it up a little bit to help recognize the employees that passed their certain anniversary. And then lastly, you'll see them out in the idea team as well as the staff at the various events. And they're planning on being at local colors and so far in May and June. So be on the lookout for them as they're out and about. Anything to add, Mike?
No, you covered it all, Harvey. Very good. Any other reports from committee? Okay. Next is budget development.
Mr. Chairman, Tammy and Tesha are going to take us through that. I do want to introduce Sam Villegas is here today. She's with Raptellus, and you all recall they're the consultant that we're working with on rate issues. And Sam's been actually here for a couple days, kind of just getting to know us a little bit. And she and Sarah are actually working on maybe a survey idea that they're going to see if they can put together. So, so anyway, Sam's here observing, and again, Raptellus has been very helpful in helping us work through some of our kind of doing a check on our rate, see where we're at, and we should have a final report from them in the next month or two. So,
Great.
Update on the AV situation. We're speaking into that speakerphone. Project your voice in the sound box right now.
The one you just hooked up?
Yeah.
Okay.
great.
Sure, we'll go ahead and get started. So today we'll be talking about our capital improvement plans. At our next board meeting, get everything back, one last final review. And on June 18th, we do have a public hearing for adoption of the rate. So from our last meeting, we did make a couple of changes on revenue. And we also made changes to our debt service that we will be seeing in 27 based on the insurance. I will come back later, talk more about that. I'm going to kick it off. The total available for capital in reserve, this is strictly cash that we have available is $27.4 million. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Tasha, talk about our capital plan, some of the projects that we've been working on in 26, and then some of the projects that we will be.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about projects that we have completed in FY26, talk about some of the achievements during this particular fiscal year, highlight some of the projects that we have coming on in FY27. I'll use this project life cycle, talk about different projects, show the project life cycle. And if you go back to the cycle, I will just explain a little bit about our CIP process. So we have a project management information system that is used to collect requests from project managers and staff based on the ground project. So we set projects bottoms up, originating from what's actually happening on the ground, what's needed, and we also have a top-down approach that looks at this project, prioritizes projects based on need, and also based on the funding. I'd like to take a moment to recognize David Barnhart, our director in engineering. His involvement has included both aspects of the bottom-up approach, talking to project management staff, making sure we understand the project needs, and it's been involved in the top-down approach, where upper management is involved, the director of finance, Tammy, and Mike McAvoy, in terms of prioritizing projects based on our short goals as well as our long-term project needs. So thank you for that. In terms of the planning projects that are funded, I'd like to highlight the SWA master plan. So for this particular project, we developed and calibrated the hydraulic SWA model. And this model is being used to identify capacity constraints in our sewer system. The image to the right shows red dots. These are areas where we have potential for capacity limitations in our system. These are along the Roanoke River Interceptor and the Tinker Creek River Interceptor. This fiscal year, we conducted detailed condition assessments of the Tinker Creek. Next fiscal year, we are starting to work on projects in terms of the planning phase for the Roanoke River Interceptor, which is also showing us being capacity limited in various areas.
I just want to add, so there's lots of green areas, and I'm pretty happy to see that because I think y'all know over the last 20 years we've done quite a bit on our sewer system to reduce inflow and infiltration and eliminate overflows. It's been intentional that we have not worked on the old Roanoke River Interceptor or really done much work on the new or on the Tinker Creek Interceptor. We did do some work on Tinker Creek in the 2010 timeframe, but those are our major interceptor pipes. They're very expensive. And so it's not surprising that those are now showing up as priorities. And so later on, when we start talking about debt, we expect some fairly heavy expenses when we start figuring out what we need to do to deal with I&I issues and capacity limitations on those two major interceptors. So,
thank you. All right. Once we're done with the planning phase of projects, we go into the design phase and into the construction phase. And this is where project costs get significant. And we have to do more reprioritization to make sure we're able to implement this project. In the detailed design phase, that's when we have drawings, specifications, we have real estate negotiations for projects that require easement or real estate to be executed. In our fiscal year 2027 budget request, we have some funding requests for material and equipment procurement. And we also have a lot of funding requests for project constructions, which completed design this fiscal year. We're moving on to construction the next fiscal year. So just to highlight that when we're requesting for funding, we're doing based on what we achieve in one particular fiscal year. We are heavy in design this particular fiscal year. FY27 will be heavy in construction. As I mentioned, not all projects move into this implementation phase, looking at design and construction. And that reprioritization and looking at those projects that proceed are based on certain project drivers. And I'll highlight these project drivers by talking about specific projects that were driven by them. So the first project driver we'll be looking at is rehab, rehabilitation and replacement of aging infrastructure based on related in terms of a do not scenario. So we had several rehab and rehabilitation projects, and I'll highlight some of those. So these are some of the projects that we completed or will soon be completed in FY26 this fiscal year in the Roanoke City. We are focusing on replacing small inch diameter galvanized and cast iron pipes. These are our most problematic pipes that are prone to breakage and failure. One of the projects that is getting ready to be completed within the next couple of weeks by the end of this month is the Grandin Avenue Water project, shown as the black line. And this is a continuation of an earlier phase shown in gray. In addition to that, we're also getting ready to complete the Carlton Road water main project. This fiscal year, again, the black horizontal vertical line. And next fiscal year, we're requesting for funding from the Grandin Avenue water main projects. We'll be replacing some 8,000 linear feet of small inch diameter cast iron galvanized pipe. And just to emphasize that these are priority based on risk associated with breakages of this pipe. The Grandin Avenue Waterline project is getting ready to complete, right about 95% design completion. So these projects will be shovel ready within the next FY27 fiscal year. All right, still on Roanoke City, Mike had mentioned the BH funding that went into pipe construction for the Melrose project. Phase 1A was completed in FY24, shown as the green polygon to the left-hand side. And Mike mentioned that we are getting ready to complete phase 1B, only 400 linear feet of pipe left. And all in all, between that area, the Melrose area, we would have installed approximately 39,000 linear feet of pipe. And these again are the small diameter cast iron and pipe. We've got a lot of funding from BJ to be able to do that. For phase 1A, we've got 10.4 million. We got an additional 8.2 million in this fiscal year. And we're completing design for the PDH Phase 2 project, which is on the Williamson Road area. This is also being done in collaboration with the City of Roanoke Department to make sure that we have coordinated paving so that our pipe goes in before roads are actually paved. So we got an additional 10.7 million in PDH funding to be able to install an additional 11,000 linear feet of pipe. We'll be starting construction in this project within the next fiscal year. Right. We talked a lot about water distribution lines. We also have a project that replaced sewer lines, and sewer lines is what's really concerning when it comes to health. We try to avoid FSOs, sanitary sewer overflows, and this is a particular project where we replace capacity limited sewer pipe running along Commonwealth Drive, crossing through Merriman, shown in that light green line, and through the Stucky Park, I believe. Yes. So we placed 4,900 linear feet of pipe. The project is completed, and part of the alignment along the park follows the back creek, and the original pipe was also very prone to failure because of erosion of the creek, cutting back towards the pipe. So this new project moved it further away from the creek, and it's going to definitely protect the pipe in this case. So this project has been completed this fiscal year.
This park here is being one of the more heavily used in the county system. It's a small issue, but by running the sewer line there along Commonwealth, we actually provide an opportunity for a small building to connect to that Sarah actually helped with, and it's Chris's ice cream or Chris's custard.
Yeah.
It's the location they moved to, so that place didn't have sewer access. That project.
So all in all, these are some numbers of what we achieved. In terms of water main replaced, we replaced 59,000 linear feet this fiscal year. In terms of water main added is the extension project, we had 15,000 linear. CITP linings of sewer, we achieved 33,000 linear for linings. And this is a more cost-effective option than sewer replacement. For sewer replacement pipes, we replaced 7,400 linear feet, and we added the same extension with sewer main as water main, which is 15,000 linear feet. So we'll move on to the next project driver, looking at increasing system resiliency. My definition of system resiliency is just the ability of a system to bounce back when we have a disturbance. The disturbance can keep us or any issues. So the background of the Spring Hollow project, this is the granular activated carbon project, all stemmed with the Water Authority detecting PFAS in our Spring Hollow reservoir. So the GAC facility, its primary purpose before the PFAS was detected was a polishing step to remove turbidity, odor, and this was ahead of the disinfection process that follows in the back end of a water treatment plant. But it's also been proven that a GAC media, which is granulated carbon again, is also efficient. But for it to be able to do that, you have to have more backwash. You have to change the media more often to maintain that efficiency for PFAS removal. So we have been using this granular activated carbon system for that purpose. But we have to have more regular backwash, and that requires a lot of valve manipulation and handling. So part of the goals of this project was to replace those manual valves with automated systems, and also to add a backwash line that's shown as the black line in construction. And as I mentioned, this has been instrumental in PFAS as required. This project was completed in this fiscal year. It was a design build project, and we had a saving of $0.8 million to the Water Authority. And looking at the same system, this shows the site layout of the Spring Hollow water facility. So the GSC is on the lower part of the image, showing the improvements that took place there. This fiscal year, we're doing design for a new clear well system, which is shown on the top of the image. So the GSC system, as I mentioned, requires backwash, frequent backwash to remove PFAS contaminants. To be able to have those frequent backwash, you also have to have a higher water supply. The clear well provides that additional capacity that's needed for this function. So it does support the GSC backwashes. It also provides redundancy as we have only one clear well in our system. This particular project is, as I mentioned, 60% in design, where that construction later on this year. And this is another project that's funded by. Related to that project as well, new pumping stations. Right now, the current pumps are mounted on the existing clear wells, and that makes operation and maintenance extremely difficult. We're going to have a dedicated pump station with the pumps, new pumps located in the dedicated pump station. The total capacity for those will be 18 MGD. And this will help with the added capacity to the distribution system as well as the plant needs. This project is also in design, and we are estimating to go into construction in March of 2020. So we hope you have an opportunity to visit the Beaver Dam project, but this is a project that required a lot of earth movements, a lot of construction grading. But one of the project goals was to upsize and improve our existing spillways. That's shown as the little steps. Those are the cascaded spillways at the top. So when we improved that spillway, we also added a drain pipe, which improved dam seepage and controls in a better way. That's shown in the circular area, the pipe that was extended that drains into the spillway. We also added new riprap to prevent erosion in case of any event the spillway is used. So basically, the spillway is important because you don't want the dam to be breached. So in case of any high water levels, the water would go through the spillway or road for that purpose. This project was completed using a lot of external funding, including VRA bonds and some grants that we received. And right now, it has been. We'll move into the distribution system and talk about some of the projects that were completed to build resiliency. I'll be focusing on two growth areas. One of them is around 220, Southern Valley, the border town area, and Route 440, which is along covering the Orange Avenue area that has a lot of recent demands for growth. So right now, both areas have pumps that are capacity limited. Both areas are served by the Cousins Cove water treatment plant. The 220 area is served by the Collins and Strawberry Grove station, while the 460 area is served by the Statesman pump station, and those are both capacity limited. For our projects this fiscal year, we completed some of resilience-related projects, and one of them was related to adding an additional crossing to serve the 220 area. As you can see, there's only one line that serves that area, and that adds the border top system would not be able to have a redundant supply. So if you go into the next slide, you'll see that one of the projects that we completed was the Gibson Beam project that added an additional crossing to that I-81. We also increased the pump capacity by building a new 1385 pump station. We also included improvements in the 460 its growth area. This included interim upgrades to the Statesman pump station. And I say interim because we have a bigger pump station project coming up. This particular project was developer funded on a pro rata basis to allow development to go on. I'm showing the Beaver Creek Dam, which was improved. The Beaver Creek Dam supplies water to the Falling Creek reservoir, and there's potential to have redundant supply from that reservoir to the Vinton area, which is currently served by wells as well as connections to the carbon scope system. This is the Gibson Lane project that we looked at last fiscal year. It was moving into starting constructions. We've completed construction this fiscal year. And if you may recall, this is a project to utilize the mill race culverts and existing culverts to run our crossing on I-85, reducing the need to bore. We're able to save 1 million by using that culvert, and that was a successful project that we got here. This is the 1385 Hollins pump station, the new pump station that I talked about. It's currently basically completed, awaiting testing, commissioning, and project closeout. This is the project when it was at its beginning phases. But the project adds a new pump station that removes the bottleneck serving the 220 corridor, and also included installation of 5,000 linear feet of transmission. Right. So some projects that we implement are based on opportunistic combination with partnering localities. We look at some of those projects that utilize external funding, and these also have other drivers that are growth related or demand based. Again, the States on Pump Station was one of those. I mentioned that it was developer funded for the interim improvement. We have the main project, which is completing design this fiscal year. Another project that we have in Roanoke County is the Woodhaven project. This also received funding from Roanoke County in collaboration with the Water Authority. But this project includes the installation of a proposed 24-inch diameter main crossing I-81. That pipe will improve the capacity of the Woodhaven Park, and therefore it will the boring machine is shown to the bottom left of this particular slide. And just to mention that we've had a little bit of hiccups in terms of the bore. We found an obstruction that required us to pause the project for a while. And the boring initially started from the Woodhaven side to the Lockhaven side. We hit the obstruction, spent time to try and figure it out. And contractors have been approved to have a different plan. They'll now be starting from the Lockhaven side. We want to Woodhaven, but they will not be using that boring machine anymore. They'll have to hand mine to make sure that their alignment is right. And members of the board and the chairman, I'd like to emphasize that this was a guaranteed bore, meaning that we're not required to pay the contractor more than what they need to have that bore guaranteed and successfully completed.
You know, they're I'm trying to think of the right term there, but they're on the hook for any of the cost here. So they got stuck halfway across the interstate, and now they're going to have to put a much larger pipe in. They're hoping to bring that over the top of the thing, or have it come over the top of the existing casing. Actually, send people up in there to try to recover their boring machine, then weld the casing pipe on there, and then run the water main pipe through it. So a lot of effort, and most of the time contractors are very successful and they make money on their jobs. This is probably one that they're not going to make so much money on. So
Those are fixed price fund?
yeah.
What's the time extension for that? Any idea? Based on,
Just got the approval letter back from BDOT last week. Contractors bring material, get a firm delivery date on the materials we'll have the best.
Fortunately, it's just again in preparation for future development there at Woodhaven. So there's not a customer waiting. But.
Another project in Roanoke County, and Mike had briefly mentioned it. This is the Pulse Mill waterline project, where we're extending the waterline from the area shown on the top as a red polygon. That's the Cotton Hill area down to Back Creek Elementary. We're installing a 12-inch water main at linear feet, 12,000 linear feet. This project is getting ready to be wrapped up by early FY27. Mike had mentioned that we have to accelerate the phase 2 project, which extends that line further from the back to the Carriage Hill area where we have wells that are contaminated. We're expecting to move quickly with that project. We have designs ready and we'll be able to start construction for the phase 2 as well, part of the FY27 project. In addition to that, we have the Pogues Mill sewer project, which is also in Roanoke County. And this project extends sewer service support community needs. We're extending service to the Pogues Mill area, shown by the alignment, the light green line from the Pogues Mill area up to the area where it connects the existing gravity line. This project will be completed early in FY27. It also experienced a lot of challenges with the gas main running parallel to the alignment in most of the way. We had a narrow corridor and a lot of rock to make things even worse. But this project is in collaboration with Roanoke County, where we receive funding as well. We were out of luck this fiscal year with some of our construction projects, but we've been able to navigate through them well and complete projects successfully. This is the old Mountain Road project, which was included a bore through the railroad. The bore also experienced some obstructions. The contractor was able to get approval for a new alignment, and we're working to complete the project within the next 2 weeks or so. But by the end of this month, this project will be completed despite the delays facing the bore. And all in all, we also received ARPA funding for the line. Moving on to Franklin County, we've been working on different phases of the Summit View Force Main construction. This fiscal year, we installed 7,000 linear feet of 8-inch sewer force main as phase 4. That's the sand line shown at the bottom of the image. Phase 4 is to enable the Summit View Business Park to have increased capacity. We are actually completed the phase 4 project using money that we obtained from Franklin County to the VEDP, Virginia Economic Development Partnership Fund. And that's not the end of the project. We have 2 other phases to complete. We will be upgrading the lift station, the existing lift station, as well as constructing a new lift station at our waste treatment plant to increase the capacity needed to serve Summit View. In addition to that, the fourth main discharges to the town of Rocky Mount collection systems, and we have to also make improvements so that the town of Rocky Mount is able to receive that additional capacity. So right now we have funding to complete the remaining design phases of the project. That's the improvements in the town of Rocky Mount and the pumping improvements. And we are working with Franklin County to get additional funding for the construction of this project. We also worked with Franklin County using CERCUP funding for a planning level study. Franklin County is looking to provide sewer service in the whole village, and we completed a planning study that recommended certain improvements, and this included a new gravity sewer collection system, a new wastewater treatment plant and drain field, and we have a recommended cost of $8.6 million, and we're working with Franklin County to establish how funding will be obtained for that particular project. We also worked in partnership with Roanoke City, and we're utilizing $3.3 million of ARPA funding to make improvements to the Riverdale industrial area. We've been able to rehabilitate sewer manholes as well as install safety lining for the sewer pipes as in-house projects, collaborated with field operations. So Trent has been instrumental in getting a lot of the sewer improvements done. We're also working with developers who are developing this park for the water and new sewer line implementations for the project. We are expecting to complete all the construction by June of this year for the Riverdale improvement. So we've talked about the three main drivers. I won't talk about the regulatory drivers because that's integrated in some of the projects. Talked about the PFAS. We are usually ahead of the game in terms of our planning needs. So we'll go to the next. We'll talk about performance and monitoring phase of our cycle. One of the projects that we completed this fiscal year, pending project documentation, is a water quality analysis. We developed a water model to be able to predict water age in our system. One thing to note is that water age is an indication of, chlorine being dissipated, and it's also an indication of usually disinfection byproducts, which are carcinogenic. So we want to pay attention to areas that have a high water age. And this model pointed out certain areas. One thing it didn't take into consideration is that we are flushing, to reduce the water age in those areas that are highlighted red. The Rocky Mount area, the Grassy Hills area, and the Explorer Park area pointed out in the image. Those are areas that are being flushed already. So one thing that we are able to verify is that we are, first of all, flushing our system in the right area. And also it highlights the need for us to continue looping our water system to avoid those dead ends that are contributing to water age issue. So project is completed, pending project documentation. We also had some internal work that was done by our engineering asset management team. One thing that they looked at was the failure rate for our pipes based on material and diameter. And they looked at the failure ratio, which is the percentage of pipes that are failed divided by the inventory of all the pipes. And what this told us is that, first of all, we are targeting the right pipes. Earlier on in my presentation, I talked about replacing small inch galvanized and cast iron pipes. And we see that the failure rate is 5 times the expected rate. A failure rate of 1 would represent, ideal situation. So we're replacing pipes that are prone to failure. And this was based on just work orders in 2025 to early 2026. We also see that Roanoke City has got the highest repair in terms of work orders that were received, but that's also a system that has some of these aging pipes. We have another effort that was conducted by our asset management team, and this was an internal effort to evaluate the accuracy of a model that we use to predict failures. So the top image on this slide shows the model predicting where we have pipes prone to failure. So asset management team did a statistical analysis to see if that prediction was sound in terms of the pipes that we're targeting for replacement. And the good news is that the results indicated that the model was predicting correctly, and we can continue targeting areas based on everything. We have vulnerabilities and high risk for failure. I talked about focusing on sewer efforts, and I think we have mentioned a lot of efforts to TV pipes. So we have a camera go in and look at the condition of pipes. That's usually effective for smaller diameter pipes, say 24 inches and below. But we are starting to target some of our larger diameter interceptors. And to be able to know what projects are needed, we need to be able to tell the condition of the pipe. So one of our projects involved using a multi-sensor inspection technology, which is ideal for large diameter pipes. And these large diameter pipes tend to flow full. CCTV videos become limiting when a pipe is flowing full because the camera ends up submerged. But one thing is that using this technology allowed us to be able to not only survey and assess larger pipes that are flowing full, but also to quantify the condition because we get numbers. The graphs, for example, tells us the amount of sediments, and you get the levels of the sediments. And the image at the bottom is showing corrosion, and you get an idea of how much corrosion there is in some of the pipes that we have.
What do the scissors signify?
So some of these charts are difficult to read. So if you look at the middle chart that shows the band with red and yellows, that shows like a flattened piece of the pipe. So the scissor is showing the pipe is cut and being flattened. So what you're seeing up there is the flattened piece of the pipe.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in red is the top of the pipe going down to the where the
Now,
cut is.
now,
Yes.
And again, the value of these new techniques is that we can, those large diameter mains have to remain in service. We just can't take those out. And so these newer techniques are allowing us to get a good idea of how the pipe, what condition the pipe's in, and whether it's going to need replacement without necessarily taking out of service.
Yeah, yeah. You would, if you were to use this CB, you'd have to have a bypass to empty the pipe, and that's quite costly, especially if you have such high flows. Thank you for adding that. That is an important detail.
Quick question. So I think you've mentioned a couple of times using historical data based on repairs, maintenance. Are you able to go back multiple years so you don't get a bias? It's the last 12 months or 6 months, or, because if you're really going to use this more heavily, you probably want a bigger end, right? So how far back can you go that date right now?
So we have a lot of historical data, but Mike had mentioned one of the slides that we're using a CMMS system.
Yeah,
So in the
I
first
didn't
look,
catch it. Yeah.
all the data.
Yeah,
And
I got it.
in Q.
Right.
So the segment that we took was a pilot based on data that was
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the project. And of course, these are only made possible based on the financial planning and budgeting that I made back. Thank you.
Thank you. On the waterfront. That will be available for capital cash revenue. Revenue that 1 million, that's every 7.3 million with funds available, cash and 7 that is on capital. Next, we'll take a look at our debt payment from 27 water crazy then 12.6 million. Then 7 and 27 having combined doing 22.7 million. We submit an application to the RA for the summer pool, and that application first. The projects that include in the are related to water line placement.
Yeah, so follow on that. Tesh's team has been designing most of these bond-funded projects, and so we are sensitive to the arbitrage issue that the auditors have pointed out the last couple of years. So we've tried to get all these bond projects designed and ready to go, so they're shovel ready. Just again, Tesha touched on some of these, but the 3 Brandon sections, Cedar Avenue, which is over in the town of Benton area, Delnita Hills waterline connection, this a standalone system in Badajoz County that we want to connect up to the central system. A replacement project following Creek Drive. This is a pipe in the town of, actually, it's outside the town of Benton, but part of the old Benton water system that it's at a high elevation. So when that pipe breaks, we end up having to do kind of emergency boil water notice under the new health department rules because we can't get it back in service in time before the elevated storage tank out there drains. So we'd like to replace that pipe. Ferdinand water system improvements in the city, and then a number of other ones. Probably some of the biggest ones are actually associated with, Tesha mentioned the Starkey pump station. We've done a set of improvements there to help with the new apartment complex that's going in on Orange Avenue, plus additional development out that way. But what we really need to the pump station is larger diameter pipes on the suction side. So we have 2 projects, and on Hollins Road to Tinker Creek, and then also Mason Mill Road. Those are included in this $22 million bond issue, plus the phase 2 of the Poge Mill project that we moved into that. So almost all of that money, the water is water distribution projects that we want to do. So new pipe going in the ground, and they're almost all designed and ready to go. So Tammy mentioned that what we'd like to do is actually get our application in to VRA. It's due May 1. So Tesha's teams are working to put all the exhibits together for that. We won't hear for a little bit about whether or not it's accepted or not, but the summer pool would close sometime in August. So this debt would be issued fairly early on in the fiscal year to allow us to then start construction. So our capital team, if it all goes to plan, we should have funding available by September 1. So our capital team's planning to bid these projects in the summer with an idea of issuing notice to proceed September 1 about the time funding's available. Really tried to tighten up that process this year so that we're not borrowing money and have it sitting there earning interest and creating an arbitrage issue for us.
So on that, borrowing the $3.7 interest payment for the bonds that will be taken out, because in August we'll get all of the funding. So as we draw the bonds down, we'll be charged interest.
What is that based off of, what interest rate?
The interest rate for what I have already proposed 4%. It is coming in a little. And then for prior years, future years, sorry, we're projecting 5. Because you do interest on it when you have in 20 months we'll start paying. So the first year is interest and the next, this is our anticipated water funding. Try to do my best to explain the graph. So the dark blue is our permit debt service. And as you can see, over the next couple of years, the debt falls off. Have currently, however, we anticipate several bond issuances. That is the light color blue that you see here. So if you take a look at the capital plan, which is the water, the last page of that kind of again on issuance in 27, another one in 28, another one in 20. Yep, here, and then have one in 31, 33, and 36. Again, this is just for cleaning purposes. If the physical year 28 and interest rates are through the roof, we'll reevaluate and potentially use our reserves. But as you can see, 2007, our highest to date principal and interest for our current debt, and then
So we're gaining quite a lot of debt capacity. That's why we feel pretty good about we can do issuances in the next 3 years. Just to, again, the page Tammy was talking about, the big dollar items in the fiscal 28, which is a year from now, issuance would be the work at Spring Hollow that Tesha talked about. And also, we didn't touch on this, but we need to replace the membranes at the Crystal Springs facility. And then the Boxley Hill pump station rehabilitation, another one of our major pump stations that needs to be worked on. The following fiscal year is a couple of distribution projects, but the big dollar item on that one for fiscal 29 is we're setting aside $10 million for a small meter replacement. So our AMI project that we did years ago, the meters are starting to wear out and the batteries are starting to fail, and so it's time to go ahead and start replacing all those meters.
I've been on the board for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we knew we were going to have this stuff, and I guess we're into year 15 here, so they have a 20-year life, but we obviously don't want to wait till the 20 years, right? We want to start replacing some as we go. So that's the big ticket item for 29.
What's the total cost for replacing all of them?
I don't know if we have one yet, but it's significant. I mean, like, so we figure $10 million will get us started on a fair amount of that.
You're just gonna face it in this time. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we're going to try to do them a little bit each year over the next 7 years.
So 28 will be 15 years?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think we're 15 years this year, right?
Yeah, 25 is when we.
Yeah. So next year will be 15 years. 27 will be 15 years. And then they're projected to last for 20 years. So we want to get started replacing them now.
So probably have 10 million in every year or 4 or 5 years in a row.
Possibly. Yeah. We don't really have a good number on that yet. We're still in the planning phases of that, but I want to get started.
After we work that in, get understand. I mean, that's a big number.
Yeah.
And we've got other demands that has to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt it has to be done. So we should know
Yeah.
what the estimate is and the timeline.
All right, so I do have a question. I assume that the savings exceed the cost.
The AMI system has been just a tremendous improvement. It allows us to be much more accurate on our billing, allows us to detect leaks that customers have. We send out letters to customers when they're having leaks. We can look at hourly consumption. So when people say, "Hey, we've got a problem," we call in and say, "Well, we're seeing nighttime consumption here pretty consistently. We think you have a leak." Really helps us pinpoint those. Makes it much easier for Leon teams to do billing. We used to have, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 billing people, and now we're down to 3, I think. So the automation's really been worthwhile. So. Can't say enough about it, really.
Speaking of automation.
We also don't have to have meter readers go out and read the numbers.
Yeah, that was actually the question.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with,
Yeah.
no meter readers, but has technology advanced from 15 years ago where they can do more?
So one of the things we're looking to do is leverage those systems better for like what we call non-revenue or unaccounted for water.
Yeah.
They're really trying to hone in on areas where we think we have leaks based on the meter reading data we're getting. So there is the ability now to collect other pieces of information like pressure, temperature in the system through these systems. So
What about the shutoffs too?
yeah, exactly.
Connection.
Remote shutoffs. Yep. Those kind of things. So, we have a few of those out there. Those meters, they have been, I'll say hit or miss, a little clunky. Sometimes they work really well. Sometimes they'll turn off and then they won't turn back on. You have to send somebody out. But that technology is getting better.
One back to this graph, just real quick. The green, what is the green line?
Yes, so that's the amount available for capital. So when I did my projections for the next 10 years, I said that revenues would increase 3%, expenses would also increase 3%, and then I put in our current debt service and then all of the projected debt service. So as you can see, it provides the amount of funds available to spend on capital, which is cash.
What happens when the blue line exceeds the green?
Well, are we?
Am I looking at that?
Well, the green line is what's available after we pay all the debt service.
After debt.
Yeah. So after we pay all our expenses and after we pay all our debt service,
Okay.
what's left is cash available in the current year for capital funding.
Excellent.
Yeah. So,
Sorry for
So
that.
does that mean in 2029 you're going to be reserved?
no, that's money on top of what we can. Yeah. We're just trying to show that in addition to the amount we would be spending each year in debt, we also have the ability to spend, in addition to that, essentially the green line.
Maybe one more line for the.
Yeah, that might be.
Service, so that happens.
That's true, assuming you don't have a $60 million replacement project.
Right. Yeah, these are 10-year projections, the best we have. So again, if something catastrophic happens, that could alter these. But you can see we have lots of debt capacity. We have lots of room to borrow. So
in 2027, our debt coverage ratio will be 1.88%, and then when we get out to 2036, it's about 2.4.
So you mentioned that if rates go, you said high or skyrocket, is there a number that we have in mind that then stop issuing debt and go into our reserves?
Yeah, I'm not too excited about going any higher than 5%, you know, for that, which is high for non-taxable debt.
Yeah.
The good news is, we also have a fair amount in reserves right now. If you think back from our financial statements earlier, that we can use there.
But that's what I was going,
Yeah.
I want to think about, especially since we're almost at,
Right.
we're 5% now, we're projecting to be at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I think like everybody else, we're all trying to figure out which way interest rates are going here. Is the Fed going to, earlier in the year they were talking about 4 interest rate cuts in the year, then that dropped to 2. Now it's questionable will we have any of this year. Possibly could have a rate increase. So, we're kind of playing that game.
Predicting it. What are you seeing in construction costs?
About a 4% year-over-year increase. So not terribly bad, but higher than the rate of inflation. And that's primarily what the contractor sells is driven by labor.
And are you getting, what's
Diesel
about the
up here
range
now.
Yeah.
of bids that you're getting? You have high percentage difference between the
Um,
low.
Sometimes, I think our bigger problem is just getting a number of bidders to be significant.
Yeah, we've been
Yeah.
having that problem.
Yeah. Most of the time, we're only getting between 1 and 3.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell how significant the range is there. Only get 3.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I had one recently, two projects, the same two outfits bid on the 2 projects, and they were about 70% apart.
Wow. Yeah. So
Both times.
yeah. So, the one thing I'll say, and back to Richard's question early on about advancing the Pogues Mill projects, is to make all that work in the upcoming fiscal year, we did have to push some of the projects that Trent's crews would do in advance of the paving program with the city of Roanoke. So we had allocated 1.5 million toward that for those construction of those projects to get ahead of the city's paving program. Right now, we can afford 1 million of that in our current cash coming up in fiscal 27. But if we can get to the remaining $500,000, we'd have to take that out of reserves. So there is a small reserve. We'd be dipping into reserves a little bit. It really depends on whether Trent's teams can get that work done. I have confidence they can, but also we work with the city and we try to be flexible with them. They also have a lot of demands. People there's more streets that need paving than they can do. So that program is always fluid, and we work pretty closely with the transportation department to try to make sure that works for everybody. So,
Do you have a feel for what percentage, or do you know what percentage of your contractors are local/regional?
The big ones we're using are EC Pace, AJ Connor, Charlie Wells. We also have a few firms coming up from Franklin County and Martinsville area, but they're pretty much all in the area. Yeah, it's almost all local. There was an outfit out of Minden, out of West Virginia, that would come and do big sewer projects for us. But when it comes to pipe work, it's pretty much all local.
Yeah. Probably a little bit different resources, but I mean, there are some big projects that will begin and coming online and increase demand for contractors over the next 2 to 3 years. And we're thinking about that. That's something to think about and consider as well, because it's not just the inflation, it's competition and availability,
Yeah.
and that's going to influence costs. I mean, economic environment's probably bigger, but
So earlier, Tesha had showed the amount of linear feet of pipe of water main replaced. That was roughly about 1% of our system. Our goal is really to be doing like 1.5% of our system, a year. And part of that's availability of capital, just to be able to fund. Part of that's just availability of construction availability. The contractors. I mean, Mark Pace and his team do a great job for us, but there's only so many projects they can do a year.
On the sewer side, we're proposing in 28. Issuance on the plan side of about 15 million. Then go back to the WPC project, the 30 million in 2030. 2030, 2032, 2034. That would be a fund, and that is stated for the rest of it.
So here, with the debt service per year is lower, obviously, than the water fund, but again, it's dropping off. Scott's team does anticipate a debt issuance in 28 associated at the water pollution control plant. We've almost come full circle there. We've been working on that plan for 20 years now. We completed the plan that we had done in 2002, and now we're back to the aeration systems for the plant that we need to do some work on. So the real unknown here, with this might change significantly over the next 2 years, is what level investment do we need to do in the Roanoke River Interceptor? We use a combination of the new interceptor, which was put in the 90s, and the old interceptor, which is from the late 40s and 50s. That old interceptor needs some work, and it's also capacity limiting. So we'll be doing work along the river, very expensive. Again, we're plugging in like $30 million debt issuances every other year, anticipating that. But Tesh's team is just kind of getting to that point. We're trying to figure out what it will need to do. So I would say these numbers have potential to change quite a bit when we get a better handle.
Do we have any more indication on what might happen with nutrient removal?
So that's another thing. Scott is keeping an eye on that. The state, I'm not trying to think of a charitable way to say this. They decided that really this analysis comes into the place they think is impacted versus a reference location. They announced to us about a month ago that they are moving the reference location further up into the watershed because they're not getting the kind of results they would like to see. And we're kind of scratching our head saying, well, it seems like you're just moving the goalpost to make your solution fit, So we're at this point, the reference location is a good like 20 plus miles from the impacted area, and we're kind of saying, are those really comparable? So there's a lot of back and forth right now with DEQ on that. But I guess the good news is we're deferring that issue for a while we're trying to argue about this. On the biosolid sides, it looks like the legislation is working out. It's tighter than it was, but we're going to be able to comply with it. So, but we do have a small study to take a look at dewatering next year. If the event that we had to stop land applying biosolids, what would we do with it? The first step is we have to at least dry it out to the point where we could send it to a landfill or an incinerator or something like that. But so I don't have a good answer for you. We're still arguing with the state, I guess, is the way that goes. Yeah.
You said that debt service coverage on the water was, what is it on the sewer side?
Different ones. The ones that we could borrow another 230 million in 27 to get.
Wasn't
Again, lots of debt capacity on the sewer side.
So, conversation on our proposed rate. They mentioned on the water side that we did make payments from average residential customers. 30 gallons on the water side, we are proposing $1.22 volume charge increase. And this will increase our water residential bills to $45. So probably about that.
So Don, this kind of gets that to your question from last time, Kevin.
On the sewer side, again, no change, $1.20 to the volume, an increase in sewer residential bill from 42. And typically we stay on the 3 to 4% increase in our rate. So combined bill for residential user, customer using 4,000 will increase to $2.40 to the monthly bill. So it'll go from 74.15 to 76.55, or 3.2%. Next, we'll talk about a separate proposal in our jurisdiction. As noted last month, we will be going up. Other jurisdiction. Again, 7605. Be going $79. So on a pretty sharp way, they have recommendation on the, within the jurisdiction, not to increase. And then out of jurisdiction, again, for 5%. And that will be the bill from 7605 to 7905.
Again, that no increase, Harvey had suggested the last time to help out the grease issues are almost always associated with restaurants, so try to help the restaurant. On the tier 4, we're still evaluating that. We talked about it a little last time for large volume users. Again, Will is working on that with the Raptelis team to kind of take some of the ideas y'all had last time. So we don't have anything for you for this month, but we do anticipate a rate for high volume users.
Does that include use fee?
We do. We're trying to do that demand charge idea that we talked about last time, where we'd have a volume-based charge and then a demand charge associated with the unused capital capacity that's available.
So the budget that was presented today also does make a change to investment account. That was, or there are like that have as well. That's all we have today for the budget. Again, we'll bring it all back in next month for one last conversation. Recommendation.
Which I think Amy was a little challenged by that investment income number. She said, go ahead and change it, but she will get back to the number she originally.
I hope I'm wrong. I love being wrong.
Well, we talked about it. We were like, okay, so if we actually balancing whether or not the rates would go down versus up again, but also our reserves are actually increasing a little bit. So if it were even go down, we do have higher reserves. So kind of, yep.
Going back to the reserve thing, just real quick. I know we've been sewer used to be
Right. We've been intentionally trying to build up reserves there.
and you see what the results have been with the debt service coverage and capital. Does it make sense to flip it now to water and maybe look a little harder to using the reserves and tapping more into the reserves and less into the debt to try to do the same thing that we did over the sewer side? Or is it just the water demand?
We have a lot of work to do on the water side, but again, to the point that we had earlier about what are the interest rates going to be in fiscal 28 and 29. If those continue to go up, then we probably will be. Right now I think let's see, we have close to $40 million in reserves in the water fund, so we could take 10 million out of that and reduce the debt issuance in 28 if the interest rates go up.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tim.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a little off topic here, but I did want to point out that we had talked about maybe doing a little field trip next month. So Tammy mentioned kind of putting all these together, making all last minute adjustments, and presenting the final budget to y'all all together, so you can see it all together. What we were proposing was, and this would be kind of for the people that want to do this, for the board members that want to do this, maybe meeting here at 2, we would get a van and go up to Beaver Dam and look at the new structures up there. Swing by and look at the Hollins Pump Station, and be back here for a 4 o'clock start at this meeting. So we would delay our 3 o'clock to 4. So if you aren't able to take the tour, you could just meet us here at 4, and we would have our regular meeting. But otherwise, if you came here at 2, you could get on the van and ride up and see the dam. And so please let Gail know your preference on that. But unless there's any objection, that's how we'd like to schedule the May meeting.
And then we talk about starting a June later.
So typically we have always had this debate about whether we have the June meeting at 4 because we have our public hearing at 5:30. You still have some time to think about that, but we could either stay at 3 and have the public hearing at 5:30 or go to 4. We do anticipate either at the May or June meeting have an update presentation on our forestry management plan at Carbons Cove. And so we know have that. We always have some housekeeping items due in June. And so I'm not sure we have the agenda figured out for June yet, but the good news is we'll be downstairs. The new room downstairs will be ready for us for the June meeting. So it's really looking good down there.
No other questions or comments about budget development, right? Good, okay. And Mike, we do not need a closed session?
We do not. That issue has been resolved. So.
Okay, great. Oh, but I can ask more questions. Okay, more.
I should have said that at the beginning.
All right, well, any other comments from board members? I have a quick question. So when do we anticipate being able to meet downstairs?
At the June meeting.
Yeah,
the June meeting. Yeah. And it'll be obviously a lot easier from logistics. You can come in through the double doors right at the corner and be right in the room. So.
my comment is, again, just outstanding overview today about budget development. Continue to be just totally blown away by all the things that are going on with the authority and all the information that's shared with us. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other business for the board? All right. Being that there is no other business, call the meeting adjourned.